In the fall of 1918, the German commander-in-chief of all the armies, Paul von Hindenburg, is going to wrest control from the German Kaiser Wilhelm II. In November, the German royal family is going to flee, and a new German republic will ask for peace negotiations. The Allies, of course, are going to accept no other term but unconditional surrender. And then there's going to be an armistice, basically a timeout that's going to be signed, and it's going to be done. It's going to go into effect at 11:11 a.m. on November 11th. So 11:11, 11:11. This marks the end of the war. The guns finally have gone silent. Many in Germany are frustrated and they're angry. After all, Germany had never been invaded, and despite bad times, some Germans felt that they could have won the war. But many believe that they were betrayed by their politicians. And under these circumstances, the war to end all wars comes to an end. But of course, that's just a timeout for the hostilities. Now you need to negotiate a settlement. And in 1919, the beginning of it, the major powers, Britain, France, Italy, and the United States, are going to meet in Versailles, the palace of Louis XIV that's so famous, to prepare a peace settlement. Europe was devastated, and the Allies really only wanted one thing: vengeance. France and Britain refused to take any responsibility for the war, and selfishness is going to reign supreme in Versailles. The results of the treaty play a major role in causing the next Great War. The United States doesn't share in this general mood of their European allies. Woodrow Wilson, the President of the United States, opposes the greed of the Europeans. Wilson is very much an idealist. In fact, you can even call him naive at times. And he believed that he could prevent further European wars by imposing American values and the American view of government on the Europeans. Wilson actually established a peace plan before the war called excuse me, the 14 Points, which he believed would end all wars in Europe. It called for arms reductions, banned secret treaties, promoted national determination, and provided an international body of collective security known as the League of Nations. The British and the French had different ideas. The Germans showed up to Paris hoping to take a part of the negotiations. Well, they showed up in Paris, but didn't get much farther. They were confined to their hotel, surrounded by guards and barbed wire. When the treaty was finally written by the Allies, the German diplomats simply said the German diplomats were basically told, sign it or face an invasion of Germany. The treaty blamed Germany for the entirety of the war and made her financially obligated to foot the bill. Most of those colonies were going to be taken over from France or Britain. Germany loses Alsace-Lorraine to the French, for example. The German army is reduced to a maximum of 100,000 men in order to guard the entirety of the German nation. Germany, it's this, if we put it in perspective of Germany, would say if it's the size of Texas, that would mean the Germany would only have the population of Wichita Falls, Texas, in order to protect the entirety. The Navy is cut back to just 6 ships, no U-boats, and even her fishing fleet was going to be reduced by 25%. The Rhineland, this borderland between France and Britain, are going to be occupied by the Allies for 15 years, and after that, the Germans would be forbidden from placing any sort of troops there. But a couple of good things come out of the peace. We have Poland showing back up again. The League of Nations is established, but Germany wasn't allowed to join, and the United States didn't join in the first place due to the fact that the United States rejected the Treaty of Versailles. So the League was never effective. The primary effects of the Treaty of Versailles were not foreseen. Although, had the victors been a little less greedy, they might have stopped to think about their treatment of Germany. The peace, of course, leaves Germany bitter and resentful. Germany was strapped with all the guilt of the war, although there's plenty to go around. After all, Britain and France might have at least tried to make peace before they did, and they certainly share some guilt for the war. But the treaty places guilt on Germany completely. The severity of the financial penalties imposed on Germany were far out of proportion to the reality. Germany should have paid some reparations, but the treaty basically imposed no limit to the amount that Germany would have to pay. Now, Germany, weakened by the military restrictions of this treaty, could have been made to pay forever. This provided plenty of ammunition for the Nazis in terms of their propaganda in the 1930s. The destruction of Austria-Hungary left a power vacuum in Central Europe. In the 1930s and 40s, this area would fall swiftly to the Germans, and after World War II to the Soviet Union. Ultimately, it basically cast a pall over the 1920s and 30s. The League of Nations had no solutions. Germany's open-ended debt made it necessary for basically the Germany to start printing vast sums of money in order to pay it off. And this leads to inflation. Consider the price of bread in Germany. In 1918, it cost 63 pfennigs. In January of 1923, that same loaf cost 250 million marks. By September of 1923, just a couple months later, 1.5 trillion. By 1923, German money was worthless. How worthless? Well, if you do the calculations, $1 American dollar in 1923 could get you, let me see here, 4,210,500 marks. 4,210,500 marks for $1 US. Housewives would have to use wheelbarrows to carry the money to buy the necessities. People on fixed pensions and incomes starved, and the Germans could not afford to pay back the reparations, so they just stopped. The British and the French are furious. They envisioned Germany as this cash cow that would be floating their economies for years to come. And when Germany goes belly up, it about bankrupts France. It revenged the French occupy the Ruhr Valley, which had a lot of minerals, in 1923. And the French basically said that if the Germans don't pay, the French will take. Now, both of France and Britain owed money to the United States, which they would announce that they would not pay until the Germans paid their own reparations. So hurting Germany had a profoundly negative impact on the world economy. Between 1924 and 32, several attempts are going to be made to alleviate the economic problems, but they had little effect. Finally, this humiliation of Germany as a result of this treaty provided a minor politician and thug by the name of Adolf Hitler a set of talking points that would spring him to power in Germany in the late 1920s and early 30s.